Welcome back to the next video. In today's video I will show you how to do GraphQL subscriptions in native iOS with Apollo iOS. So if you don't know what GraphQL subscriptions are, they are basically like web sockets or socket IO for which helps us to enable real-time communication or continuously listen to some kind of a data. So firstly I have this GraphQL server running. If you want to know how to implement this on a backend with a Node.js server, I already have video on that on my channel, so if you want you can watch that. And if you see over here, I have one subscription, and this subscription gets triggered every time you add a new user. So first I'll run this subscription so that it can continuously listen for some data, and here I can add some new users, so suppose Pat. And if I try to run this mutation of adding a user, and here you can see that this is the data for adding a user, but here you can see this is the output for subscription. I'll try to add one more user like Stark, and if I run this, keep an eye over here, and if I run this, here you can see the data was printed. So whenever you try to add a new user, the subscription gets triggered. So we'll see how to do this with native iOS Swift using Apollo iOS. So here you can see that I have created an Xcode project using UIKit, but you can use Swift UI as well. Next I have written down some steps because I have trouble remembering all the steps. So firstly we'll have to download Apollo iOS. So I'm using Swift package manager, but if you want to use CocoaPods you can use that as well. So I'll just click on file, add package dependencies, and here I will just search for Apollo iOS. I'll select this, I'll click on add package. So it should be able to download that Apollo iOS from GitHub. So anytime now. Okay, so from this we don't need everything. So I don't need this Apollo dynamic, I don't need Apollo API, I don't need Apollo SQLite, and I don't need Apollo test support as well. Only thing which I need is Apollo WebSocket and Apollo. Then I'll click on add package. Once the package is added, what we will have to do is we will have to open our terminal and cd to our project. So I'll just open my terminal. I'll just open new terminal over here. We'll do cd dot. Okay, and then I'll do let me see what is the name of my project. My iOS new. Okay, so I'll just search for my iOS new. Okay, so I have just cd'd to my project inside terminal. Before that, what we'll have to do is we'll have to right click on a project, and here you can see Apollo install CLI. I'll click on that, and I'll just click on run. I will allow command to change file, allow command to access network. Then we'll see what is the command. So we will have to run this command over here inside our terminal, but you should go to your project first, like cd to your project in terminal. But instead of my user API, you can give your API or backend whatever name you want to. So I have just given it as my user API. Rest everything will remain the same. So I'll just quickly add this command. Okay, so this is done. It creates a file called Apollo codegen-config.json. So I'll just open that file. So I'll just go to my iOS new subscription. So this is the file that was created. I will open it over here. Okay, next what we'll have to do is we'll have to copy paste this command, copy paste this code inside that file. So I'll just copy this, and after once the output JSON object ends, I'll just add a comma. I'll paste this, but this should be your own backend endpoint, because this will download that schema.graphql file from this particular backend, and the output path you can give whatever makes sense to you. I'll keep it as default. I'll save this. Okay, once that is done, we'll have to run Apollo iOS CLI fetch schema. So I'll just run this command. So I have run this command. Now if you go over here, you should see a GraphQL folder being created. Now what I'll do is I'll just copy the folder name, and here inside our Xcode itself I will create that project folder. So I'll just create over here new group, create it over, because you can see that that GraphQL folder is not visible inside your project. Okay, that's why I'm doing this. Now I'll just click on new, add files to my iOS new subscription. Okay, and we have to select this over here, select this, make sure this all things are checked. I'll click on add. Okay, next what I'll do, I will just create 3 files, one for fetching list of all users, one for the add user mutation, and one for subscription. So let me see, it creates a GraphQL create query via Xcode. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just right click over here, new file. Okay, and I can go at the very bottom because we require an empty file. I will create an add user mutation. I would write mutation dot GraphQL. Then I'll add one more file, again an empty file. This is for get user query, get user query dot GraphQL, and one for subscription. So I'll create new file, click next. Okay, and I'll name it as I don't know, user subscription, I guess, user subscription dot GraphQL. Okay, so I have already created all these 3 files, and now I'll just copy all these things from my project itself. So I'll just copy this from my backend, sorry. So I'll just copy this over here. Okay, I'll just change this name to add user mutation. Okay, next I'll copy the get query as well, which will help us to get list of all the users. So I'll just copy this get user query, I'll copy it over here. Okay, I'll just write get user query, and one for subscription as well. So this is my subscription. I'll copy this over here as well, and I'll just name it as user subscription. Okay, once that is done, again I'll go back over here. Then we'll have to fire this command. So this will what it does is basically creates this my users API folder which we have created, which we had named. So I'll just run this command. So it basically helps us to do all kind of code generation stuff depending on the GraphQL files which we have added. So if you go over here, you can see my users API folder was created. Now we need to add this inside our Xcode as well. So I'll just go to file, add package dependencies, add local, and here you can just select my users API. I'll select add package. Then I'll click on add package. Okay, that is done. Next you will have to go to your project, go to build phases, go to link binaries with libraries, and even though I can already see my users API, I will just for my own sanity I will add it again. Okay, once that is done, let's see what's the next step. So I need to copy this network.swift file. So I'll explain it to you as well. So I'll just close this file, new, I'll create a Swift file, network. Okay, I'll copy paste this. Okay, so firstly what we are basically trying to do is we are creating a client, we are creating a cache, as well as we are creating a store. Like this is mostly for normalized cache stuff. If you want to store all these data locally, this GraphQL data, then currently inside my backend I am not using authorization as well as header. So this is our URL for our backend. Okay, so change it according to whatever is your URL. But if you see this request chain network transport, I have kept it as default interceptor provider. But if you have authorization of bearer token, this default interceptor provider won't work for you. So instead of this entire part, you will have to write uncomment this part, and I'll show you how this file also looks like, because you will have to create this separate Swift file for this. So instead of this part, just write provider over here, and you will have to uncomment this out. And this is my endpoint URL. and for WebSocket you just have to write WS. Be careful, this is WS and not WSS, and my app backend is hosted on localhost 4000. Also the protocol is GraphQL Transport WS and not GraphQL WS. So these are very similar. Even though I'm using GraphQL WS on the backend side, on the front end side you have to use GraphQL Transport WS for iOS. Like, it's very confusing names, but yeah, it is what it is. Then here I am creating our WebSocket transport, then I am creating our split network, and then here we are creating our Apollo client. Okay, once that is done, so if you have your own authorization and barrier token, you will also have to create this Swift file. Just copy paste this code, and if you want to find where all this code is located, so here is the documentation for it. You can go to this URL. So here they give you this authorization interceptor, so that you will also have to, because this file of network interceptor provider takes an authorization interceptor, and inside authorization interceptor you will have to write this bit of code, and over here you will have to, I think, pass your authorization barrier token as well. So you will have to check this documentation for it. So here you can see they have stored that token inside this library called keychain Swift, and from that they are getting that, and then they are calling chain dot procedure sync over here. Okay, so you'll have to do something like this, and here you can see they are creating this network interceptor provider as well. But if you don't have barrier token like me, you don't have to worry about all this stuff. Next, before going to view controller, I'll go to info.plist. Because my backend is hosted locally, I will allow this arbitrary loads as well. So I'll go to info.plist, open as source code, and I'll quickly allow this. Next, what I'll do is I'll go to my view controller. I will create a table view. I will as soon as the app is opened, I will call that get users query. I will pre-fill my table view. I will create a text field as well as a button, and once the user adds any kind of data inside that text field and clicks on the add user button, with the help of subscription I will add that particular user to our table view. So I'll do the code for that and quickly show it to you. Let me first of all show you the output. So I have this table view over here, and whenever I try to add a new user, if he has added if the user is added successfully, I'm listening for that particular subscription. The subscription get triggered and our table view shows the updated data. So if I try to add some user, suppose Alex, and pay attention over here, I'll click on add. Here you can see Alex was added. I will also try to add it via my backend. So if I go to my backend, I'll go to first user, I'll add some username, suppose carry. Okay, I'll click on first. If I go to my simulator, okay, I'm not sure why it didn't add it. Let me try to refresh. Maybe there might be a connection issue. Okay, I'll try to add I will try to add it from the app itself one more time just to check. I'll add it Marsh. Okay, I'll click on add. Okay, that was added perfectly. Now I will try to add it from over here. Suppose Adam. Oh sorry, because I was executing first one, which is deleting a user, so that's why it didn't execute. Okay, so I'll just execute. Oh, okay, here you can see Adam was added. So let's see the view controller code. So first what you will have to do, import UIKit, my users API, whatever your folder name is, and import Apollo. Then I have extended UI table view and delegate, created my table view, text field as well as button. This is just an array of string to store all the usernames. Then I have created an active subscription of cancelable. This is only used for subscription part. Then some styling store, button, text field as well as table view, and adding it to our view. Then some NS layout constraints. Then here actually I'm doing query for getting all the users. I've already made a user on how to do queries and mutation, so I won't explain it that much. But all in all, I'm just getting all the data and appending it to our data source and reloading our table view. And here I'm calling start subscription as well, so I'll show you that method in a bit. And this is for adding a user. So basically you can see whatever data you have entered inside text field, I'm adding it, but rest of the data I have kept it as hard coded for now, because that's anyways I'm not displaying the data, and even if that is hard coded, that's fine. And once the user has been added, I'm just doing a print over here. Okay, and these are mandatory methods for your table view. So data source dot count, as well as deq reusable cell, as well as this number of rows in section. And this is the important part for listening to subscription. So what we are doing, we are initializing our active subscription. So network.chat.apollo.subscribe, then we are calling our user subscription. Okay, and then once the result is successful, I'm appending that username to our data source. Then here I'm just reloading that particular cell of our table view which has been updated. Okay, and if there are any error, I'm just printing it to the console. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.